Yeah, I mean, there are, without doubt, inequalities in the pension system, and you can see why some people might think that. But I think for many people in this country, those in the armed forces and their families occupy a special place because we're asking them to go and fight for their country and sometimes die for their country. And what war widows tell me is that it's not a pension as such, it's a small compensation payment of about £7,000 a year. It's not a great deal, but they say this is a recognition of the fact that it's not just their loved ones that have paid the ultimate price, but they have too, the families, the widows and the children have had their lives ripped apart by those events. And it's a recognition, they say, by the state of that sacrifice. And they feel that taking the pension away when they have the audacity, as they put it, to try to move on in life, to try to find love again and continue living their life, it's a judgment almost that, you know, on that.
As if it's saying a bad thing to have done.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it is fascinating because this did remind me of a piece of trivia that I learnt about American Civil War widows. And I had to Google this because it just really reminded me of something, which was the last war widow from the American Civil War receiving a pension for that died in 2020. It's the most remarkable thing because this person, when she was 17 years old, back in 1936, married a noctogenarian Civil War veteran, and the system meant that a pension from a war in 1865 was being paid out right through into the 21st century. Really remarkable. Yeah,
well, they are not going to really be faced with that situation here at the Ministry of Defence or the Treasury, because the cruel fact is that these war widows are dying at a rate of a dozen or so every year. So the battle has already been won in the sense that the politicians, Prime Minister, chiefs of the military and others recognised that this was an injustice. So from 2015, the law was changed. So if you are married to a serviceman or woman and they die on active duty, then you won't get that pension revoked even if you remarry. But it left out
there's a gap.
Those before 2015. It was 300, but it's down now, Tom, to 220.
Wow.
80 have already died in less than 7 years. So time is running out for them.
And not a big problem. So just while you're here, Mark White, we are hearing that there is some breaking news about an elder gentleman who has been tasered by the police. Could you fill us in on this? Yeah, this is a rather alarming story, one that took place in June, but we're just hearing about it now. Two Sussex police officers who may now be facing manslaughter charges. It follows an incident at a care home in St Leonards-on-Sea in East Sussex back in June. As I say, care staff had called the police because one of their elderly residents who was suffering from dementia had a knife. The fact is this elderly gentleman was 93 years old. He was in a wheelchair. He had one leg. And there is now an investigation as to whether those officers used excessive force, because when they were called to the care home, they were taken to a room where this gentleman was. There was an interaction between the police and this elderly resident. Then apparently the gentleman in question, Donald Burgess, he's been named as, was sprayed with incapacitant spray, Pava spray initially. Then he was struck with a police baton, and then he was tasered. He was taken to hospital after that, never released, and died 3 weeks later. Post-mortem's been carried out. It's been inconclusive so far. They're carrying out other investigations into the potential cause of death. But these officers have been put on notice now that they may face manslaughter charges and charges, internal police charges and independent office for police conduct charges of gross misconduct. Well,